Hello F1 fans! Welcome back to the F1 Masters podcast brought to you by AUBG Daily. As usual, you're with me, David and Harry, and today we have decided to present you something different. We will talk about our dream F1 teams. We'll have some categories and everybody would decide on their livery, engine, Pilot 1, Pilot 2, reserve driver, where the team would be based, the celebrity that would be as an ambassador of our team, and our team principal. We'll have a rotational order, and everybody is free to pick a person from every generation of F1, but we cannot pick the same person. So if, for example, Harry starts and he picks Lewis Hamilton, David or me cannot pick Lewis Hamilton for driver. Let's begin, and we'll start from me, and our first section would be the livery. And I was thinking, for the past 75 years since F1 started, there has been so many cool liveries, and I have fallen in love with a lot of them. But I have like a really interesting outside shout that I want for my team, and that is the green 2007 Honda livery. That was super cool looking in my opinion, because before Aston Martin we didn't see like green liveries that often, and usually green liveries, despite not being associated with the best teams in F1 history, they have always brought something special, like with Jaguar and the 7-Up sponsorship there, like super iconic. And some other teams, but for me, probably one of the coolest looking ever is the 2007 green Honda livery. So that is my first pick.
My first pick for livery, I narrowed it down to two, but I'll go with my favorite livery of all time. It's been my favorite livery for a long time, but that is the 2012 Vodafone McLaren. To me, this is just the cleanest car ever. The chrome and also the Vodafone sponsorship. To me, this is a car it looks amazing, and in my opinion that livery is absolute perfection.
Well, I agree, and I liked Vasco's pick because I didn't expect it really. And my pick is also McLaren, but it's the MP44 from 1988, like the red and white livery, which is so iconic, everybody recognizes it. I mean, it's probably one of the best of all time, and I know it may be basic, it may be like a popular shout, but still, I mean, it's just too good.
Yeah, for both of your picks, like they're amazing. I also love like most of the McLaren designs. At first I was thinking about the 2012 McLaren with the iconic Vodafone sponsorship and with the iconic Marlboro sponsorship on McLaren. It is just so many incredible memories of the history of F1. And I think we can proceed with Harris, who will be the first one to pick the engine of his dream F1 car.
Right. This may be no surprise, but the engine is Mercedes, because I am a fan of Mercedes, like not only as an F1 team, but also as a car manufacturer. And I think that their engines have proven to be really successful in F1, especially since like 1998, let's say, when they were McLaren suppliers. They've won a lot of championships with McLaren and their own team, so logical for me to pick.
Not gonna lie, that was going to be my pick too, because Mercedes, especially from the 2014 till 2018-19 era, that engine was just monstrous. I have two other options, but I think I'm going to pick my engine to be Honda. And Honda, because of so many amazing performances during the years with McLaren, and we're not talking about the 2015 McLaren engine, but we're rather talking about the 80s, 90s, the memories with McLaren, and the championship winning car of Red Bull and Max Verstappen, like amazing engine.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair shout, I would say. My engine, it's actually not on the grid currently. I decided to go with something outside the box, but I really like this engine, and I have gone with the BMW engine, the turbo engines from the mid 80s. Most notably, Brabham won the championship with it in 1983, but 12 cylinders, 1500 cc. I think that this engine is one of the greatest ever made, and BMW as an engine manufacturer in F1 have always produced good engines in my eyes, and yeah, I believe that this is one of the most powerful engines ever made in F1 history.
Do you believe that someday we'll see the return of BMW to the sport?
Probably, yeah. They returned to endurance racing recently once again in the top classes, so it's not far-fetched at all.
I hope we can see them again, because this is just pure history. And imagine having the battle Audi versus BMW
Versus Mercedes.
on the F1 grid. That would be amazing. And also, I want to give shout out to the 2010 to 2013 Renault engine that Red Bull won 4 consecutive championships with. I just wanted to mention it because I don't think people remember it that often, but Renault, for once in the history of F1, were actually doing a good job with their engine.
I'm also surprised David didn't pick Ferrari.
I mean, Ferraris, I think it's a safe choice, but I just wanted to do something more experimental and think outside the box.
Right, we can move on.
Yeah, and I guess I will move on with driver number 1. So I get the first pick. So with the first pick, for my number 1 driver, I guess you could say, I don't think this is too much of a surprise, but I'm going with Senna. The fastest guy in history, fastest qualifier, fastest driver in the rain. We all know Senna is one of the greatest, and I think that he is a no-brainer of a team leader, and yeah, that's who I've gone for, straightforward. Simple as that, really. I mean, it can't get much better than that, can it?
Sadly.
Yeah, I was gonna pick Senna as well, but now he's not available, so plan B, I guess. Well, I mean, so it's not gonna be Senna, but it's gonna be Lewis Hamilton, because he was my second pick, but now he moves to first. I'll improvise for my second driver. But I mean, obviously, Lewis Hamilton, like the most decorated F1 driver in history, he is proven to be a team leader, and I don't need to explain further.
Well, yeah, Ayrton Senna was obviously my first pick too, but I was ready for this and I prepared my second, third, fourth option. And that is why, because now I would have the pick for the number 1 driver and the pick for the second driver. So I'll just announce them at once. And this is the greatest couple in Red Bull history, the 2 champions. Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen will be my drivers lineup.
That's interesting, for sure. I would be curious to see how that would work as a partnership. But yeah, interesting one nonetheless. So my second driver, I actually have 2 options I have not decided between. Now, I was not gonna lie, I was thinking of doing the Senna and Prost, but since this has already happened, I wanted to do something different. And I'll go with someone that I'm sure none of you, I don't think, really considered, but that is Juan Manuel Fangio. I think he is very adaptable to any car that he's ever driven. Also, he drove F1 in his late 40s, so very experienced driver, and I think someone that Senna can lean onto if in trouble. And I think he would actually be able to complement Senna very well, as I think their driving styles are quite different. So yeah, Fangio is my second driver.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna pick Fangio for my second one, but you guys you read my mind.
I think your choice should be pretty obvious at that point, but I'm not going to point fingers to any particular German driver that has 7 titles.
Yeah, imagine like 14 titles driver lineup.
This is probably the dream F1 lineup of every F1 fan.
I guess, yeah, I'll just stick to it. I'll be basic. So Michael Schumacher it is. I mean, yeah. And they're with a Mercedes engine. So, yeah, sounds cool.
And now, after you have 14 titles in your team, who is going to be the reserve driver? Mazepin, Stroll?
No, I've actually picked an interesting shout. I mean, he was in the role of a reserve driver. He appeared like a few times occasionally during the last years, and it's Nico Hülkenberg. Because of his like Racing Point, Aston Martin, Hülkenberg appearances, I think he will do a pretty good job. He has proven to be the king of the midfield, like especially this year. So I think he will do the job.
Vasco?
For me, I was contemplating between some great drivers that have drivers' titles, that have won a lot of races, but as he picked Ayrton Senna and I managed to do my Red Bull drivers lineup, why not the reserve driver to be the third best in F1's history? Let's pick Daniel Ricciardo for the reserve driver's seat. That would be probably the funniest team ever. Sadly, I didn't pick like some of the cool liveries of Red Bull. I could have made like the best Red Bull lineup ever. Like, oh, remember the white Japanese livery for Red Bull? That was pretty slick, pretty good looking. But I was contemplating because around people like Nico Rosberg, Fernando Alonso, but let it be Daniel Ricciardo.
Well, that's an interesting pick for sure. My reserve driver, I actually didn't really deliberate much for this. I'm going with someone in history, maybe somewhat of a forgotten driver, but one of my favorite drivers of all time, and that is Gilles Villeneuve. I think that reserve driver to Senna and Fangio, Gilles Villeneuve is, I feel like, a combination between both of them. Very skilled driver and can always deliver the maximum of the car whenever needed. So I think he would perfectly fit into the driver pairing that I have going. But now we move on to our bases or our headquarters for where our teams will operate. Starting with, is it me? Is it?
Yeah, it is you.
Okay. So my base, very random, probably you'd say, but the only reason I decided to choose this is because there's currently no F1 races there, so easy access to testing tracks, and that is Portugal. Portugal, very historically known in motor racing, and they have tracks like Portimao, which comes to mind, which would be perfect for testing, new upgrades near the factory, and yeah, that's basically my only reason.
So my base is gonna be also near like tracks. It's in Barcelona, Spain. I mean, Spain has two main tracks, I would say, like Barcelona and the Jerez track. So, I mean, it's gonna be, I would say, convenient to go testing there because it's gonna be really close to the base. So it makes sense for me.
Well, interesting picks. I have decided to take a bit of a different approach, something outside of Europe. And I want to be as close as possible to my favorite F1 track. So my team would be based in Brazil, like super close to Interlagos. So we make sure that even if we don't win a single race during the season, our only win would be in Brazil. And I think that is something pretty interesting because I don't think that in F1's history, like correct me if I'm wrong, there has been a team based in South America, I think.
No.
So it would be something completely new for my imaginary sport. So I think we can move on, and I think I have the next pick. And that would be the celebrity that would represent, work as an ambassador for my team. And I was thinking, who should it be? Like somebody who has winning mentality, but at the same time is very funny, entertaining to the public, and can be very helpful for the development of the whole team. And I was thinking about actors, singers, like people connected to other sports, And I think I stopped at one place, like probably one of the most entertaining people in the entire sports history. So my ambassador would be called Shaquille O'Neal. I think that would be so funny. I remember, I don't remember what was the race, but I remember that he was giving the trophies for first, second, and third place on the podium, and yeah, and he was standing next to Max, who won that race, I think, and Max, even on the podium, he was almost the same height as Shaq. And I think he would be pretty fun as an ambassador. It would bring something really amusing to the team, and that is why I think he's the perfect pick for that.
Yeah, he was once interviewed by Martin Brundle on the grid walk, and his answer to every question was just Lewis Hamilton. He's so funny. Okay, my celebrity. So I actually thought you were gonna say my guy, but you didn't. So I'm glad about that. My person is one of the most hardworking and dedicated athletes in the history of sports. I would say very motivated, and I would say not many people have the same work ethic as this person, but I'm going to go with Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant, I think, is obviously an iconic basketball player, but his mentality, and I think he does pay attention to other sports as well. For a long time he did, and I think that his mentality with the likes of Senna's mentality, that is perfect in my opinion. So I think he would be the perfect ambassador for my team.
Mamba mentality.
Absolutely.
I think him and Senna would be like amazing combination. Probably the people that are known for like never giving up and having probably the greatest work and sports ethic in history. So I really like that pick.
Now the logical thing to say is Michael Jordan, right? But no, I picked somebody else, which may be an interesting pick. He is not a sports, like he's not an athlete. He is rather an artist. He is a singer. It's Bruno Mars. I mean, he doesn't have anything in common with F1. I mean, has he been to races? I haven't seen him.
I've never seen him.
I don't remember him, but we may have missed it.
Yeah, he may go to Las Vegas. Who knows? Like he seems like the type of guy to go there. He's really like glamorous. He's the hit maker. I mean, everybody loves him almost, and he's gonna bring a vibe to the team. I mean, he's just such a like chill guy who's always like hanging around with people. He's really like, yeah. I think he's gonna pass the vibe check of the team. Nice. And is it my pick now?
Yeah, you have the last pick of our improvised F1 drafts utopian team.
Right. So it's the team principal, right?
Who is your team principal?
So it's not one of the most obvious ones. I mean, no, I'm not gonna pick Toto Wolff. And I know Vasco doesn't like him, but it's somebody else who may kind of be forgotten. And it's actually Colin Chapman, who was, oh my god, I think David picked him as well. Damn.
I did pick him. That is crazy. That is crazy.
Damn, we read our minds. Yeah, anyway, because he's a legendary team principal. He was the boss of Lotus F1 team when they were like at their peak in the 70s. He achieved incredible things with them, and he managed drivers such as Fittipaldi, Andretti, even like Jim Clark as well. So yeah, he is an amazing team principal, and yeah, I'm sorry, David, but I had the first pick.
It's totally fine. I mean, I'll find another one. Don't worry.
So is it Vasco's turn?
Yeah, it is my turn, and I'm grateful that you didn't pick I think indisputably probably the best F1 team principal in the history of the sport. I was thinking about there are at least 5 or 6 team principals that I would be more than happy to have at my team, but one stands above the rest, and this is obviously Sir Ron Dennis. With his spell at McLaren, like having 7 constructors championships, having 10 drivers championships, 138 Grand Prix wins, and his presence in the paddock, I think would be super crucial, probably the most vital part of the whole team that would connect everything together. And I think him with the combination of Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, that would be a deadly trio.
Yeah, I think we're all aware of, like, we have heard of Ron Dennis's work ethic. He was really, like, for him the details were very important. Like, everything had to be perfect all the time, and I think this is gonna suit Sebastian and Max's like style. So
their willingness for success, because they have always wanted to be on top, even if when they're like 9 wins in a row, and they would want the 10th as it is the first. The same goes for Ron Dennis.
So before I had decided on Colin Chapman, Ron Dennis was actually the other person that I was thinking of before that. But without either one of those, I am choosing someone that maybe you guys didn't even think of, but I'm going to go with Ross Brawn. And Ross Brawn, he was great at Ferrari. He wasn't team principal at Ferrari when Michael Schumacher won championships. That was Jean Todt. But he made a team out of nothing, won the championship, then established the foundations for Mercedes, which eventually became a giant in F1. Ross Brawn, very smart, very strategic man, and pretty calm, actually. He's not really a guy that gets heated, good at managing his drivers, and has worked with the likes of Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg, Michael Schumacher, under his guidance, Rubens Barrichello as well. So although he doesn't really have a long history as a team principal, I think for the years that he was team principal, he was actually pretty good. So yeah, Ross Brawn's my choice.
It is really cool how you managed to snag Jenson Button like at the first place when you were mentioning legendary drivers.
The world champion under his team principal.
Of course, yeah, probably I think the most romantic story from F1, like one season, and the only win, and actually the only season in existence for Brown GP, and Jenson Button was the guy up front there. So really fascinating, and I really want to make one honorable shout out. He was my reserve option because I was almost sure that anybody was going to take Ron Dennis in front of me, but Sir Frank Williams, I think, deserves a shout out. Like the whole Williams family and their legacy in the sport. And also, most people don't like him, but for me, like the whole Red Bull legacy, it is Helmut Marko, it is Adrian Newey, Helmut Marko, but I think most of anything, it is Christian Horner, who has been with the team for, I think, 20 years now.
Yeah. Longest serving team principal right now.
Yeah, so you guys want to recap in full for everyone the teams that we have? Who wants to start?
You can start. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. So my dream livery is the Vodafone McLaren from 2012. My engine is the BMW Turbo. My first driver is Ayrton Senna. My second driver is Juan Manuel Fangio. And my reserve driver is Gilles Villeneuve. My base is in Portugal. My celebrity ambassador is Kobe Bryant. And my team principal is Ross Brawn. I'm overall pretty happy with that. How about you guys?
Well, for my dream F1 team, my livery would be the 2007 green Honda. The engine would be also Honda. Sebastian Vettel would be my first driver. My second would be Max Verstappen, two Red Bull champions. And the third one would be Daniel Ricciardo, serving as reserve driver. My team would be based in Brazil. And my celebrity ambassador would be Shaquille O'Neal. And for the final pick, Ron Dennis is going to be the team principal of this F1 team.
And last but not least, my livery is going to be the 1988 McLaren. The engine is going to be from Mercedes. Driver number 1 will be Lewis Hamilton, and driver number 2 will be Michael Schumacher. The reserve driver will be Nico Hülkenberg. The base will be in Barcelona, Spain. The celebrity will be Bruno Mars, and the team principal is gonna be Colin Chapman.
So before we end, what do you guys, out of the other two teams, who do you think has the best team? Or maybe out of all three of the teams, if you could objectively try to pick who has the best team. Or what are
Well-
the positives and negatives in someone's teams?
Well,
you know?
I think based when I compare your two teams, I really like the shout with BMW, but I just think that the Mercedes engine would be superior. I like both your liveries. They're both amazing from different eras of the sport, but once again amazing. And even though Hamilton and Schumacher have 14 championships between them, I think I lean towards Senna and Fangio. And for reserve driver, I like both your shouts. And for Portugal and Spain, they're pretty close to each other, so I think you can go to each other to steal the secrets of the team. For the
Spygate.
Yeah.
I'm a bit biased for Kobe Bryant as celebrity, but I think even though Ross Brown is a legend, I think I prefer Colin Chapman as my team principal. So that is why I can say that it is a tie between the two of you.
Yeah, I agree. We have some strong points and some weaker ones, but your team, I like some interesting shouts like the livery. I like also the Brazil base. It's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
something a bit outside
Yeah.
of the box.
Otherwise, the drivers are pretty strong. I mean, we can't argue with that.
Yeah, with Sir Ron Dennis
Yeah.
being in charge.
That sounds like a driver pairing that Ron Dennis would actually have difficult to manage, but not impossible for Ron Dennis.
And
Yeah.
he would acknowledge their championship potential for sure. I think we can conclude that it was pretty fun doing that F1 dream lineups and overall teams. So I think this is all for today from us, guys. We're looking forward to the next episode. Till then, like, subscribe and follow us and AUBG Daily on Instagram and Facebook, and stay tuned for more of our content. Thank you, and remember,
If you no longer go for a gap that exists,
You're no longer a racing driver.